Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining the Los Angeles County Department of Consumer and Business Affairs in another edition of our Help for Homeowners series of webinars. This week, we will be exploring the California foreclosure process and also exploring liquidation options when it comes to facing foreclosure. Next slide. The mission of our department is to promote a fair and vibrant marketplace. We serve consumers, businesses, and communities through education, advocacy, and complaint resolution. The department has been serving the County of Los Angeles, consumers, and businesses since 1976. My name is Samuel Lakeen. I am a senior foreclosure prevention counselor within the department. Joining me today coming along for the ride on the presentation is my coworker, Ani Dafshin. She is a foreclosure prevention counselor also within our unit. For any general inquiries you look to maybe clarify something that comes up later concerning this presentation, you can reach us directly at homehelp@dcba.lacounty.gov. You can visit our website at dcba.lacounty.gov, or you can contact our department directly at 800-593-8222. Next slide. So really what we always try to drive home is the idea for these webinars is to make sure that when property owners are facing the idea or the threat of foreclosure, that they're steered in the correct direction based on proper and important and unique and correct information. And one of the biggest things we always deal with is the idea of foreclosure. So what is foreclosure? Foreclosure is simply the legal process that's used by a lender to recover a balance of the loan when a property owner fails to meet any obligation of the loan. Next slide. Now, in California, there are two types of foreclosures which can occur. As mentioned at the bottom, California is typically a non-judicial state. However, judicial foreclosures can occur. A judicial foreclosure will involve a mortgage, and that mortgage is going to have two parties. Typically, it's going to be a borrower and a lender. Now, if in fact the lender does decide that they would like to foreclose, they would have to bring the suit into court and get a judge's approval to do so. Oh, and really quick, I did want to mention, if you do have a question, go ahead and enter it into the chat box. At the end of the presentation, we'll go ahead and go through those questions and answer them to the best of our ability. Moving back, a non-judicial process, which is typically what happens in California, is going to involve not a mortgage, but a deed of trust. Now, there are three parties in a deed of trust, which would be a borrower, a lender, and a third party called the trustee. What the borrower does is convey the power to sell to the trustee if they default in any obligation or term of the loan. If that does happen, the lender will send a request to the trustee to initiate and begin the foreclosure proceedings. Now, the foreclosure trustee will conduct a public auction without court proceedings. They don't need to go to court to recover the balance of the loan if a foreclosure prevention alternative is not reached. Next slide. Now, this is a small or a high-level overview of the California foreclosure process. The very first step when foreclosure begins is going to be a recording of the notice of default. That is the very start of the foreclosure process. This document does have to be recorded with the county recorder's office for where the property is located. And this is going to be recorded again whenever a borrower fails to meet a term of their loan. Most typically, the term of the loan that triggers a foreclosure is a missed payment. If 90 days do go by without any sort of foreclosure prevention alternative being met, a notice of trustee sale will be recorded with the county recorder's office. Now, 90 days do have to go by after the notice of default is recorded. And what this document does is set a date, time, place, and amount for the auction to take place. Once the process does get to the auction section, one of four options will basically come out of that. The auction may be postponed to a further date, which would just push the auction down the line. The auction can be canceled. It's possible that some sort of agreement was worked out with the lender or something else has happened, canceling the auction, or the property will be sold. Now, if the property is sold to the highest bidder and the third party does in fact win, they will be granted over the property from the trust or the trustee. that will trigger what's called a Trustees Deed upon sale. The same document is going to be recorded if nobody bids, and the lender is required to take that property back on their books. This is known as a real estate owned property. That trustee's deed will transfer the property to the winning bidder. Like I mentioned, by default, this would be the lender if there's no bidder, or if no one bids or nothing higher than what the lender is requiring is received. Next slide. Now, a lot of people have trouble understanding when the foreclosure process actually does begin. Or how will I know if I'm in foreclosure? My lender doesn't send me the proper notifications, or I can't get through to them. In 1996, the homeowner notification was established to allow, that required the county basically to send copies of grant deeds, quitclaim deeds, and deeds of trust in the mail to every party involved within 30 days of the recording of one of those documents. Now, along with that comes the telephone number to our office, and the purpose is really to provide information, counseling, and assistance to an individual who received this document. Now, again, this program, the homeowner notification program, only applied to grant deeds, quitclaim deeds, and deeds of trust. So basically, anytime a change in title was made or when a loan was being taken out, those documents by law were required to be mailed to these parties. Next slide. Now, with the introduction of Senate Bill 62 in 2013, the enhanced homeowner notification came around. This program included 2 additional documents to be mailed to property owners, which are the notice of default and the notice of trustee sale. As mentioned before, these are the 2 documents that are going to either initiate or move forward the process of foreclosure. SB 827 reduced the time to mail a notice from 20 days down to 14 days. And AB 1106 extended the program for an additional 10 years. So essentially, if a property owner does enter the notice of default status and it is recorded officially with the recorder's office, they're going to receive a copy of this document within about 2 to 3 weeks, letting them know that there is free foreclosure help that they can contact our office, and that they have officially been entered into that process of foreclosure. Next slide. Now, additionally, AB 3088 came around and it had similar protection to the CARES Act. Although the CARES Act has ended, this law requires that similar protections the CARES Act provided to loans that were secured by these government-sponsored enterprises, Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, VA loans, that they receive these similar protections or similar the lender was additionally obligated to review these loans for forbearance options or other relief options that just like the CARES Act was doing. What's important about this is that the loans that were not secured by government-sponsored enterprises were now required to have additional protections in the form of written notices to borrowers that they may qualify for certain assistance. And these notices also had to come in the form of denial for certain requests for assistance. This law applied for properties that had 1 to 4 units that were owned by a single loan. And additionally, these properties could have been occupied by a tenant. It wasn't required that an owner had occupied the property, which was one of the biggest issues that landlords were facing during the pandemic. Next slide. Additionally, one of the most important programs that is in effect currently is the California Mortgage Relief Program. This program is extremely unique in the way that it can, in fact, provide property owners with money to come current on their loan. The program is, in fact, covering past due property taxes, and they have expanded or actually come down on the income eligibility requirement. They do not provide for future missed payments. What they will do is essentially, if you owe less than $80,000, you've missed at least 2 payments before June 30th, and you can prove a COVID-19 related hardship, they're going to catch you up. They're going to pay the lender up, the amount that you've been delinquent, and this money is not required to be repaid. Property owners who were in fact previously denied based on eligibility are encouraged to reapply as soon as possible. Like I said, recently the eligibility requirements were expanded, so it's important that if you were denied, go back, give it another shot, because you might qualify at this point. Next slide. This is the information for the California Mortgage Relief Program. You can contact the California Housing Finance Agency. If you go to calhfa.ca.gov, the information is on their website for the Mortgage Relief Program, or you can call the telephone number and discuss how to apply there. But I believe that most of their application requirements are going to be, they are asking property owners to apply online. It seems like that's the most efficient way for them to deal with the applications. Next slide. Now, if you were not able to qualify for the California Mortgage Relief Program, or you were unable to qualify based on any other or for any other programs based on your eligibility requirements, our department within Consumer Affairs does have foreclosure prevention services. Me and myself and Ani and a couple of other people within the department do run this unit. The foreclosure prevention unit's main goal is to assist homeowners in preventing or avoiding the foreclosure of their property. Now, every situation is different. What we can promise is individual attention with an assigned counselor from the beginning to the end of the process. The goal here really is to open a dialogue with the lender to explore any foreclosure alternative options. So as we're going to discuss in a bit, retention is not always the only option to, the alternative to foreclosure. Foreclosure prevention really is very important, as we'll discuss in a bit. Next slide. Now, typically when a request for when an individual is in trouble with their loan, or maybe they're going to fall behind or they have fallen behind, the lender is going to require that what's called the RMA, or a request for mortgage assistance package, is submitted. It is important to understand that these applications are requests and they're not a demand. It's not something that is legally owed to you to have something worked out. You are typically going to be, and it's encouraged that, the industry encourages that borrowers who do fall behind are properly reviewed for, anything that they may qualify for. Assistance is offered on individual circumstances, on, based on income, based on who owns or backs the mortgage, based on, in-house programs that they may offer, and then eligibility criteria that are set at the beginning of the loan. Now, limits were initially set when the loan was taken out. Sometimes a loan can say, if you're going to have a modification, they can set limits to how high or how low the interest rate can be changed. And also they may have limits on how much a balloon payment can be put on the back of the loan. These are just a couple of examples, but just the most common ones that are listed when an individual is reviewed for mortgage assistance. Next slide. Now, most typically, an RMA package is going to include the following documents. This is really a very general package that we send to property owners. The first one being here, the Form 710. It's the Uniform Borrowers Agreement. It's a short application, and really the main focus when these applications come into lenders, it's going to have information just like your contact information, your financial situation, a brief understanding of the hardship, sort of just a high level overview of where you are. They also ask for a form called the 4506T, which is a release of tax information. The lender is going to want to confirm with the federal government that you did at least claim the income that you said you did on your tax returns. It's really a verification of your financial situation for them. We do provide copies of a hardship sample letter. A lender is going to require that you write a letter outlining your hardship, why you fell behind, sort of what happened. If you do have another person who lives in the property, or maybe a non-borrowing, partner, spouse, adult child who contributes to your household income, you will be required to submit a contribution letter as well. And also, if you do own a business, they will require a sample or a profit and loss statement. Typically, we do provide samples of those upon request. Next slide. Now, other documents that are going to be required by the servicer, which again, this is really all for them to get an understanding of your financial situation. They're going to ask for the most recent mortgage statement, your most recent tax returns, your most recent bank statements, pay stubs, proof of rental income, and proof of any other income. Not everybody has a conventional, conventional employment where they receive a paycheck. Maybe some people are in business for themselves. Maybe they have money coming in from other avenues. All of this is really just to make sure that you can that not only can they prove that you make the money that you do claim that you make, but that money is calculated correctly when they put that information into their system. Next slide. So once a lender does in fact receive all the documents that are needed, they're going to enter what's called the review process. Just recently, I just wanted to touch on it really quick. Currently, the CFPB has allowed lenders to not require a full package, and this is really not to discourage individuals from sort of submitting everything that they have, but to give a lender more of an opportunity to handle these requests as they come in, which more frequently as the forbearance process and the moratoriums were ending. So it might be required of you. Some lenders may say, hey, fill out the RMA package and send me your last 2 pay stubs, and that might be it. Some lenders might require bank statements and pay stubs. Some lenders might just require you call them over the phone and say, make a verbal statement that this is how much you make. So just be aware that is possible, but it's not impossible for them to ask for a lot more. So that's going to be my portion. Ani, go ahead and take over the rest of it, and let's go.
Thank you, Sam. So moving forward, the request for mortgage assistance packet normally has a 30-day review period, which is why it is important to submit it at least 90 days prior to the auction date of your property, have you reached that point in the foreclosure process. Once reviewed, your lender will offer you either retention or liquidation options, or you may not qualify for any options at all. Regardless of what you do or do not qualify for, you may appeal your lender's decision. Next slide. After receiving the approval for your request for mortgage assistance, homeowners have 2 options to prevent the foreclosure of their property. Retention options, which allow the homeowner to keep their home, or liquidation options, which may require the homeowner's property to be sold or forfeited to avoid foreclosure. Although both of these options are methods of avoiding foreclosure, it is not guaranteed that you will keep your home. Next slide. So retention options are designed for homeowners who can afford to remain in their home and qualify based on the terms of their loan. It is not guaranteed that because you can afford retention options that you will qualify, because the terms of your loan must permit these options. The most common retention options include a forbearance, meaning that you do not have to pay your monthly mortgage payments without the threat of foreclosure until you can afford to do so. During the COVID-19 pandemic, forbearances were offered in increments of 3 months for up to 18 months. If you were offered a forbearance, your lender is required to contact you before it ends to discuss either extending your forbearance, if permitted, or discussing other options that may be available to you. So you might be offered a reinstatement or paying off the full delinquent amount owed, after which you will continue making your normal monthly payments. During the delinquency period, you are incurring late fees and other charges daily. So a common misunderstanding by borrowers is paying back missed payments without requesting a reinstatement quote. The importance of doing so is to ensure that you are paying back missed payments, late fees, and other charges by their due date, as the amount owed is changing daily. Another option would include a repayment plan, meaning paying back the amount that the borrower or homeowner has defaulted on over time. Your monthly payments will increase, but the life of your loan will remain the same. And an alternative to this would be the loan modification. During a loan modification, you are modifying the terms of your loan to make it more affordable. Your monthly payments could decrease, making it more affordable, but the life of your loan may increase, and the interest rate may decrease, or a portion of the principal or delinquent amount may be added to the back of your loan and must be paid back in a balloon payment. Another option may be to refinance, which means taking out a new loan to pay off your current loan. Some benefits might include a lower interest rate and a new maturity date for your loan, allowing you more time to make payments. This is typically not a result of submitting the request for mortgage assistance. However, it is encouraged before the homeowner falls into a state of default. And depending on your financial situation, you may have the option of a loan payoff, where you essentially pay off the entire loan and no longer must worry about monthly mortgage payments on that loan. If you only have that one loan and you fully pay it off, you will no longer have to make monthly mortgage payments. To qualify homeowners for any of these programs, some of the most common factors that may be reviewed include the borrower's creditworthiness, whether if they are suitable to receive financial credit, debt to income ratio, or the comparison of how much you owe to how much you earn, and their financial status, current income, and ability to repay the loan, all of which is reviewed through the request for mortgage assistance packet. Next slide. So if you are denied any of the mentioned retention options, you may appeal or request another review. If you send in a complete mortgage assistance application at least 90 days prior to the foreclosure sale, at this point, they will have used 30 days of those 90 days for the initial review, and you will be left with about 60 days until the auction of your property. The new review or appeal process will take about another 30 days, which is why it's really important to stick to that 90-day deadline. If you do not qualify for any options, you will have time then to appeal. You may also request another review if your servicer denied you for any trial or permanent loan modifications that they have offered you, meaning that if you do qualify for a loan modification, but the terms are still unaffordable to you, you may still appeal their decision and have them review you for another loan modification. If you are denied again after your appeal for retention options, you may qualify for liquidation options. Next slide. So as previously mentioned, with the rise of the COVID-19 pandemic, liquidation is sometimes the best financial option. Liquidation options are designed for homeowners who cannot afford retention options and or do not qualify based on the terms of their loan. The most common liquidation options are deed in lieu, cash for keys, the sale of your home, a short sale, and other unique programs that specify to your lender. Next slide. So a deed in lieu is the voluntary turnover of the ownership of your home. This is possible if your lender agrees to accept the deed to your property instead of foreclosing. This process will help avoid foreclosure. However, you will also lose the ownership of your property. The cash for keys process is common when forfeiting your property. During this process, you may trade the keys to your property for funds and time to assist with your move. It is, however, not mandatory, so you are not guaranteed anything after forfeiting your property to your lender. The deficiency amount is the difference between the total debt that a homeowner owes and the property's fair market value. Oftentimes, a deed in lieu should fully satisfy your debt. If the deed in lieu does not satisfy the full amount owed to your lender, they can go to court and have a deficiency judgment entered against you. In order to avoid this, during the agreement for the deed in lieu, you do have to make sure that it states that the transaction is completely satisfying your debt. Next slide. So to avoid forfeiting your property to your lender, you have the option of selling your home. Borrowers that are in default can still perform a regular sale of their property. However, this is normally done if they have enough equity to pay off all liens in full. If you have enough equity to completely pay off any liens, whether if you only have one loan or multiple through the sale of your home, this may be an option to consider if you want to avoid forfeiting your property or having it auctioned off. Next slide. The lender will approve or qualify homeowners of a short sale if they are willing to consider an offer from a bona fide buyer for less than what is owed on the loan. Your lender will review all potential buyers' offers before approving of one. Once approved, your property will be sold and your debt will be satisfied. Because the lender is willing to consider an offer that is less than the amount owed, there will not be any excess funds for the homeowner. However, it is still a possibility, and the homeowner may receive excess funds if the property is sold for more than what is owed to the lender. So a normal sale of your property is still a possibility at this point. Next slide, please. It is important to understand each option as provided by your lender. They will review and approve you for options based on the information provided on your request for mortgage assistance packet, and you must decide and understand what that means for you and your property. Remember that each situation is different, and what some may qualify for, others may not. Be aware of scams during this time. Foreclosures are a public record, and many people or companies will try to contact you promising to stop the foreclosure of your property and save your home. Only your lender can guarantee the stop of your foreclosure, and their services might come with expensive fees. It is easy to fall into these scams if your lender does not qualify you for any options or only qualifies you for liquidation options when you may want to keep your property and stay in your home. Consider what the best financial move may be at this time. Sometimes you do have to forfeit your property to avoid the consequences of foreclosure. Look to reliable sources for help. Foreclosure prevention services in the state of California should be free, and you may contact the Housing and Urban Development or HUD certified counselors or our foreclosure prevention team for free assistance with foreclosure prevention. On the next slide, you will see our general contact number as well as a link to our website. You can give us a call for foreclosure prevention counseling or create a foreclosure prevention case online through the DCBA website. We can also assist you with creating a foreclosure prevention case over the phone. So if you are unable to do it yourself online, you can give us a call and we will assist you. Thank you for attending our presentation, and we will now be answering any questions you might have.
Great, great. Thank you so much for that, Ani. Kevin, do you know if there were any questions entered into the chat box?
Yes, we received a couple of questions here. So the first one that we received is asking about reverse mortgages for seniors. Maybe one of you can give, I guess, just a brief overview of how that kind of fits into this process and how it's similar and or different to some of the other options we're talking about today.
Sure, sure. So with the reverse mortgage, well, and just the topic we talked about today, the foreclosure begins when, like I mentioned, when you don't meet a certain term or a certain obligation of your loan. Now, a reverse mortgage is unique. Going back when I did mention the most common way a foreclosure is triggered is when a property owner fails to make their monthly mortgage payment. However, with a reverse mortgage, it's unique because monthly mortgage payments are not required to be made. Now, it's important to realize, though, that that is not the only obligation of that loan. The other more important obligations are that the property owner has to maintain title. They do have to maintain that property as their principal residence. They have to keep up with the property taxes and the property insurance. They do have to keep the property in a state of certain repair. So there are other ways for a property owner to go bad and to sort of begin the process of foreclosure. But going back to what we had mentioned before is that if you do find yourself in that sort of situation, speaking with your lender right away or asking a HUD certified agency or even our department for help, with exploring what's on the table is really going to be what's going, the best thing to do. I hope that answers the question. If not, that there can be a follow-up.
Great, thank you. And we did have a second question here. And the question is that they see on television and hear on radio advertisements by people who will pay cash for your house. So again, do we have kind of like a general sense of how the Department of Consumer and Business Affairs might look at those sort of advertisements and and sales pitches that are out there in the public realm?
Yeah, sure. I mean, just like anything, if somebody wants, well, let's just say this particular example. These individuals, they're gonna buy your house. Fine, that might be something that they want to do. It may be a legitimate business. It may not be. What it comes down to is the contract that you sign, the terms you agree to. I mean, is this sale gonna cover the amount of money that you owe on your loan? Are they gonna pay you the fair market value of the property? Are you gonna make any money? Is the transaction going to go through an escrow company? Is it going to be insured by a title company? If they do buy the property and all of those things are good, how long do you have to leave? When are you going to get your money? So there are a lot of things to look at. If you were going to buy or sell your home, it's probably a good idea that you contact a licensed real estate agent, and get probably their professional opinion. Maybe they'd be willing to or able to put your property on the market if you did decide you wanted to sell it, and maybe you'd make more money. So it just really depends on what the other terms of them buying your property are.
Okay, great. And it looks like we might have one additional question that came in here. So the question is, do you send a list of homes in foreclosure for people who are seeking deals in regards to buying homes?
Good question. No, the department does not do that. If you wanted to subscribe to some service, or to maybe speak with a title company to get copies of, notices of default or maybe notices of trustee sale within the county, you can do that, but that's not a service that the department would provide.
Okay, those are the questions that came to my desk. Did you get any directly to you, Sam, or are we good there?
You know what? No, I didn't get any to myself. Ani, did you get any questions on your end?
No, there are no questions on my end.
Okay, all right. I guess we're good to go. Thank you everybody who attended. If something does come up and you do have additional questions, you can reach us directly by phone at the number that we had mentioned before. You can visit us on our website, and feel free to give us a call anytime, Monday through Friday between 8 and 4:30 p.m. Oh, there's the number there, 800-593-8222.